Game over. It is game over.
Game over, cancer.
I'm Val Solomon, Director of Program Impact at Cannonball Kids Cancer Foundation.
And I'm Dana Nichols, Executive Director of CKC.
Game Over, Cancer, a podcast dedicated to exploring conversations about pediatric cancer research, solutions, and inspiring family stories.
We're a nonprofit dedicated to creating innovative treatment options for kids fighting cancer and educating for change.
By creating a space for these conversations, we empower the community to take action and provide tangible hope.
Game over, cancer. Screw you, cancer. Well, today's episode is all about surrender. We are talking to an incredible human who has been through more than any of us ever hope to say we've been through. And I think what's beautiful when you hear from our guest today is there's so much you can take away from the conversation, no matter what difficult thing you're going through.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is a cancer podcast and we are diving deep into cancer and trauma and grief today.
Mm-hmm.
But everything that our guest says, I think, has so many beautiful takeaways and life lessons for every part of life.
Absolutely. She drops a lot of wisdom on us. And it spoke to me as somebody who is working in this space.
Yeah.
But, you know, as also a mom and a woman, I mean, it was just an incredible conversation. I'm super excited that you are listening to it.
Yes, absolutely. She's a mom as well. She's an advocate for caregivers. She has started a foundation to be so. She's strong and truly beautiful person inside and out. I can't wait for y'all to hear this episode. So without further ado, take a listen. Our guest today is the president and founder of Mia's Miracle Foundation, which she created with her husband, professional golfer Camilo Villegas, in honor of their late daughter, Mia. Mia was diagnosed with brain and spine cancer when she was just 17 months old and spent 4.5 months at Nicholas Children's Hospital. Mia passed on July 26, 2020, at 22 months old. Mia's Miracles supports children, families, and healthcare workers facing medical challenges. And under Maria's leadership, the foundation has launched programs like Mia's Blessings, providing emergency financial relief for families, Mia's Serenity Space for staff at Nicholas Children's Hospital, a restorative space for frontline caregivers. Guided by compassion and Mia's legacy, Maria works to ensure families and medical heroes alike feel supported in their most difficult moments. Please help me welcome Maria Ochoa. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
We've been looking forward to this conversation for a while.
We are,
so
and
excited.
I think there's so many things when we've started talking that have felt like alignment and really feeling like we have similar visions of what we hope we can impact in this space. So we're excited. I thought maybe we could start, just tell us about your beautiful family.
Oh, well, first of all, thank you for having me here. I'm very, very honored. And my beautiful, tiny family, you know, my husband, Camilo, we've been together since 2005.
Wow.
So 20 years now. Half of my life, crazy.
Mhm.
And you know, Camilo, as you said, he's a professional golfer. So he left Colombia before I did. He came here for college in 2000. I stayed in Colombia. I went to law school in Colombia, and then I came here in 2008. And, you know, we've had a beautiful relationship with all the ups and downs. We got married in 2014, and on 2018 we welcomed Mia, our first daughter, after I had been trying to get pregnant for about 3 years. So it was a bit of a struggle to get there, but she, you know, when I got pregnant, I was so happy. And when they told me it was a little girl, I couldn't be happier because I have 3 sisters. So it's 4 girls in my house.
Oh my gosh.
With my mom. And we are like a little clan. You know, we're always together. They're my best friends. So we were so happy. And I have a niece and also a nephew. He's the only boy. But Mia was coming, you know, to our clan. And we were very, very excited. And it was a beautiful pregnancy. And Mia was born on September 26, 2018. And as you know, we went through our journey with her. And sadly, she passed when she was only 22 months old in 2020. And after that, only 6 months after that, which is crazy, I got pregnant again with my little son, Mateo. He's going to be 4 now in December. And he is the joy of our lives. He's literally his dad in a miniature version. They not only look the same, they are the same person.
Wow.
I mean, they are all physical energy.
Yes.
And he's super athletic, just like his dad. Super active, very stubborn, very impatient. Also just like his dad. And a little bit like me too. I'm like that too. And yeah, so that's my little family. It's a very special family, you know, like all of the families out there, but very unique because we do have Mia in heaven, and Mateo is very well aware of it, and he knows she's always with us. So
I love that.
Oh, and I actually have a Great Dane too.
Oh my gosh.
Pixie, she's 100 and she's 146 pounds.
Oh my gosh.
Of pure love and sweetness. She's my best friend. She's the best dog ever. She's going to be 9 years in December too.
Oh my goodness.
I feel like the bigger the dog, the smaller, like the bigger the baby. Like
it's
more,
no, 1000%.
Like,
I say, well, she's a service dog, and she was trained. You know, she you know, as you guys might know, I need a lot of support. She's like sometimes I'm like, she's supposed to be my emotional support, but I think I am her emotional support, because she's like all like, she's nervous, she's so funny, but she's beautiful. She's a really, really, it's true what they say about Great Danes, that they're gentle giants, because she truly is like a gentle giant. It's so cute.
Gosh,
yeah.
I love that. Does Mateo ever get to ride her?
Oh my God. I mean, he would, when he was smaller, yes. Yeah, he would. Yeah. But now that he's almost 4, no, you know, because we are like, okay, we have to be careful with Pixie as she's getting older. But they are best friends. It's so cute. And she's very patient and very gentle, because he throws her things that when they're like playing, and he's like all over the place, and she just like sits like that, and she just lets him be. It's really sweet.
We're so lucky to have sweet little dogs in this world. Yeah.
You know, once I saw a phrase, I actually posted a photo with Pixie, and we had another dog, a Polo, a little dog. He was crazy. He was very, very crazy, and he couldn't share the attention with more people in the house.
Yeah.
So he now lives with another family that it's very, very close to me. But I posted a picture of both of them, and there's a phrase that says that real therapists have fur and paws or something like this. Yeah. And that has been so true, because Pixie has been such a big support for me, especially right after Mia passed, you know, such a big support. And at that moment, that Polo, he was a little Pomeranian, a little crazy Pomeranian. Yeah. And he was huge support for me, and he was very attached to me. So.
Yeah. They sense so many things.
Yes.
It's so beautiful.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Well, I love how you talk about your family, and I love how you talk about your husband and this long life you've had together so far. And also, we know that cancer takes such a toll on a family. Yes. Do you want to talk a little bit about the reality of going through the unthinkable as a family?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people only see, you know, especially for my husband and I, him being like a public figure, an athlete, a golfer. And for me, you know, having a presence, let's say, on social media, like people see the surface, and usually that surface that you see, it's beautiful, because you see, I mean, no one is showing their struggles or I don't know, to me, it doesn't feel like genuine to like post a video when I'm like super vulnerable. Like in those moments, they're very intimate, and we go through them in privacy, but it doesn't mean that they're not there. So like a lot of times when people they meet me, the first thing they tell me is like, oh my gosh, you guys are so strong. You live like so beautifully. Like, how do you do it? And I'm like, no, actually, I don't think it is that we're strong. I am comfortable sharing my vulnerability to people. Yeah. But what they don't see is, the struggles that you live and that you go through. Yeah. And when you say like cancer affects the whole family, one person gets the diagnosis, but the whole family go through the process. And for Camilo and I, it has been such a big learning experience in our relationship because we deal with things in such a different way. And I think that has been a huge factor into why we're still together. Because there's been moments, it's so hard that there's been moments where you're like, okay, I cannot do this. I cannot do this. I cannot do it with you. I want to be alone. All these struggles. There's, I think, like a crazy stat that it's like 85% of the families that the parents that their child gets a diagnosis, I think 85% end up in divorce. And that's a very alarming number. It takes a lot of work for the whole family. It takes a lot of work, a lot of conversation. But I think the key, at least in our experience, is recognizing how the other person goes through things differently than you are and allowing them. And at the same time, validating how they go through it. Because although I might not understand or even agree with how he deals with some things or vice versa, we both allow the other to do what they have to do. But if we need each other, be there for each other and communicate. How do I need you? Because usually the way, let's say I'm a very emotional person. So if I'm crying, Camilo is like, he's a very practical and he's like, okay, solution. So he's like, okay, she's crying. How can I make her stop crying? Right.
Yeah. Fix.
Yeah. Yes. How can she stop being upset? Whereas to me, I don't need to stop crying. Yeah. I just need to let it flow. Yeah. So it took us a while. And I was like, Cami, because he would be like, do you want to meditate or do workout? And then one day I was like, I actually just want you to like sit next to me and just like, if you can, like give me a hug or like, just even don't say nothing. And now he's like, he knows, and he I'm crying and I'm upset, and he just like sits with me and he says like, I know it's difficult, and we wait. And then sometimes when I can feel that he's upset about something, before I would be like, I think you need to talk. I think you need to like let your feelings and emotions. You have to be feeling something, but that's not how it works. So now I tell him like, do you want to go on a bike ride? Do you want to? Because I know that's how he gets the energy out.
Right.
So, and that's on like with your partner, and then, with the whole family, that's like another story, because like my sisters, as I was saying, and my whole family, they have been such a huge support. But when everything happened with Mia, this was back in 2020 when COVID happened. So, and both of our families are in Colombia. So we were literally alone in the hospital. There was lockdown, no visitors. So it was Camilo, myself. We were very lucky that we had our nanny, Sylvie, which is like my soul sister and Mia's second mom. She was there with us every day. And but we were very lonely physically. Thankfully, we felt the support, even though the people were not actually physically there. But it affects the whole family and beyond.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's so impactful to hear you speak about. I know you said, I share my vulnerabilities, and certainly you have with us today. So we want to thank you so much, because I think it's important for people to hear, that's the really difficult piece about cancer. And it's one that, among all the things that we could possibly talk about, what should happen, what does happen, whatever, I feel like that's something that we don't really dial down enough on, which is the emotional impact that it has on parents in their relationship as parents, the other siblings. I feel like, I don't know, there's just this focus, we know it affects everyone, right? We know that. And when we do start talking about someone besides the patient, it's maybe their siblings. Mm-hmm. And I feel like just like everything else as moms, like we leave our conversation about us last, right? Yeah. So it's really important and it's wonderful, I think, to hear you talk about those things. Yes. Because that is the reality for a lot of parents. And then you all have the other layer of, okay, this is what we're dealing with personally and privately. And at some point, we have to say, what publicly? Like there has to be then another conversation. I would imagine like, well, how, now what? Like what happens going forward?
Yeah. Well, I think to touch on and thank you for what you're saying. I think it's very important for the caregiver because sometimes it's the mom, sometimes it's the dad, sometimes it's the grandmother. It's such a huge burden on the caregiver. And, in my case, as a mom or, you, of course, the priority is the child, right? And you need to focus into how the child is and the well-being. And this I thank to me as oncologist, Dr. Osama Maher at Nicholas Children, because the well-being of the child depends so much on the well-being of the caregiver. Mm-hmm. And he was the one who told me that. When we saw how aggressive everything was going to be and how vulnerable we all were going to be, he said that to me. And especially it had been 5 days that I didn't leave the room. And he was like, I don't want to see you here. Like, go take a walk, go, because Maria, you need to take care of yourself first. Mm-hmm. And I thank him so much for that. But it is the job of the caregiver is such a huge burden and it is exhausting. Mm-hmm. And sometimes, and you feel bad saying that. Yeah. You feel, you feel bad, you feel guilty, but I think it's very important for people to acknowledge that it's okay if they're exhausted. I had never experienced fear. I didn't know what real fear was until my daughter was diagnosed. So there's so many things there's so many layers to everything. Yeah. And then what you're saying about the dealing, that has always been the dealing with it privately, on our intimate life and then publicly. It has always been very organic how everything has been for us. When Mia was diagnosed and while she was in the hospital, I was like, I say like a turtle when they go inwards. Yeah. I would not talk to many people other than my family. I would have one friend who I would update her on everything. I only posted maybe 1 or 2 photos of Mia in the hospital because that was her own journey. And physically it was such a huge change for her. She was just a baby. So I wanted to respect that for her and for us as a family. It was after when she passed that I was ready to share my experience as a caregiver. I have never spoken on Camilo's behalf. I can never speak on Mia's behalf, but I can speak on my own behalf. And that's what I have done in a way where I share as much as I feel comfortable with. And there's boundaries and, I set those boundaries and it hasn't been a struggle for me personally. Yes.
It's incredible. I'm so glad you just used the word boundaries too, because in my head I was thinking, this is a woman who knows herself and knows her boundaries. And that's so incredible. But a lot of what you have talked about in your grief, in your caregiving, has been about the PTSD you've had after Mia's diagnosis. And you've said even a couple times already, the fear, and I wondered if you would talk a little bit about becoming so intensely fearful in life and death.
Yeah. So as I said, before, I didn't know fear until they told me, your daughter, we found a mass. And everything that happened after that. Sadly, Mia's cancer was very aggressive, and so her treatment was very aggressive. So in a short period of time, 4.5 months, that felt like an eternity for us. But if you look back, it was a short period.
Yeah.
She went through a lot, 5 brain surgeries, strongest chemotherapy, that a child can endure. So we saw so many things. And I have a lot of PTSD of that moment, the suffering. Mia didn't smile for a long time. We were in ICU for over 41 nights. So I am at peace with her passing because I know I always prayed for a miracle as long as she could be fully like her spirit could be fully free in her body, within her body. And then when she passed, I knew that was her miracle, right? I've always been at peace with that. It's been very hard for me to come to peace with her suffering and the physical part of it. And that's what I have feared the most, for it to happen to me. For it to happen to someone else in my family. And, there's always different emotions, how we deal with grief or with trauma. There's some emotions that come to the surface, but usually those emotions, it being fear, anger, guilt, they carry something underneath, which is, the sadness. And for me, it showed up in fear. I was never angry. I have not been angry to this day. But I have been terrified. And but it's also been such a learning experience. I am a lot better now. I went through my own health struggle this year, and kind of like facing my biggest fears. And that, weird way how the universe and God works freed me from a lot of that fear that I was carrying. And when you said, that a woman that knows herself, it's the woman I just recently thought of this not long ago. I discovered the woman that I didn't know I am. And I think we all are, but we don't know how amazing we are. And we get to know that side of ourselves when we have gone through these situations. And then it's like, okay, how we went through those situations, that's the people we are. That's the woman we are. But it's taking a lot of work and a lot of, conversations with myself and with God, and a lot of like facing the struggles and moving with them.
Do you know what's so profound, I think, about what you just said is, I think I've heard in the past people say like, well, I came through this time and I like persisted and I became like as though the really difficult thing changed you into who you were. But I just heard you say, I was that person before. I just didn't realize it. I found it. I think that's just so profound to feel like that we all have the capability to be that strong. But how would we ever know that? It's until we, are experienced with that. And the fear that you're talking about, just to acknowledge for our audience too, which is, it wasn't like, you said what, 4 or 5 brain surgeries?
She had 5 brain surgeries
in 4.5 months.
4.5 months. And that's one part of the treatment, right? Yeah. So it's not even like this one really, scary thing happens and you get a minute to breathe before you have to prepare for the next thing. It was just layered over top of the fear from before. Yes. And, just that the way you're speaking about these things, I think in all the time that we've talked about, this is the first time I'm hearing it said so eloquently in that way about like, I'm feeling a little bit of that. And it's just, I think it's really important for our audience to hear this. And I'm so appreciative of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've just touched on a little bit that you had your own health diagnosis. So you were diagnosed with stage 0 breast cancer.
Yeah.
I think it's fascinating to hear you talk about how it moved you through your grief a little bit.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that, like a little bit more about that, about facing that realization that you're hearing about cancer again, you're in that room again with a cancer diagnosis?
I mean, there's so many layers to these. I could talk about this for hours and hours and hours, because I think there's so many different components, of course, to this. And especially, we're such bio individuals. So in my own case, I think there's a huge emotional, spiritual layer. Of course, there's a layer of like environmental. Why did these things happen in the body? You know, all that stuff. But so my mom had breast cancer when she was 42 years old. I'm 42 years old. My sisters, my younger sisters, they are identical twins. They're 36 now, but they were born Siameses in Colombia 36 years ago.
Wow.
They are truly a miracle. They were attached from their sternum to the belly bottom. They didn't share any organs, thankfully. They had the surgery when they were 4 months old, and they are amazing women. And they're super healthy. So that, it's a miracle. But my mom went through a really hard thing with her children when they were little. And then she had, and my mom was always like, I know this happened to me because of my emotional fear. And the whole time when we were going through with Mia, she was like, don't hold your emotions, express everything. And I was like, I think because of that, I was always like being, vulnerable and saying, I am afraid, and saying, and I went to therapy. All these 5 years, I've been to therapy every week. I've done a lot of things to support myself, but I felt such indescribable level of fear and anxiety. I would wake up in the middle of the night, and I would just be like so nervous. And I was resisting cancer so much. Yeah. And I think that was me being angry at cancer. And I'm just thinking of that right now. Sometimes it's like therapy when we go through things. And I think that was my way to be like angry and be like, I resist you. Like, I don't want you, and I'm afraid, and all these things. And when I got my own diagnosis in April this year, I cannot explain how, but it was kind of like someone lifted a burden out of me. And since that day, I've been living life, of course, differently. These things change you. But it's kind of like, okay, you have to face this. This is the diagnosis. How am I going to go through this? And again, the woman that I didn't know I am. Right. And I was like, okay. And I said to God the same thing that I said to him the day that they told me that they found a mass of Mia in Mia's brain. I said, okay, if this is what I'm going through, you have to show me the way, because I for sure do not know how I'm going to deal with this. I'll go through it, but you show me. And I always try to find the purpose into like these things. Okay, what am I learning? What is the purpose here? And thankfully, it was a miracle that we caught it so early. It was such a big blessing, and I am so grateful for it. And right away, I went to MD Anderson in Houston. I decided for myself to do a double radical mastectomy, which is not a standard procedure for stage 0 cancer. They were very clear into telling me, you have options. This is very extreme for your diagnosis. But, I always say you have to, what I did is not what people should do. It's each person has to do what they feel is best for them. Right. And thankfully, I had a great experience with the surgery. They did reconstruction right away. And I've been feeling, physically, I've always felt great. But mentally, I feel like the Maria that I had been missing so much for the past 5 years. Like, I can't stay in the present. Like, if you ask me I ask myself this all the time with my anxiety and all that stuff, I would be like, where are you? Because I would always be like in the past or in the future. And I truly ask myself, where are you? And I am right here, right now. And I am so thankful. So thankful. Yes.
I'm so happy. It seems silly to be like, I'm so happy about you. But I think like,
thank you.
And I think personally, I relate a lot to having options and being grateful for options, but also being like, okay, what I need is actually the most radical of these options, and I'm going to be okay with that.
Yes.
And I think it's really impressive, again, to know what you needed and to do that, and to be able to show up for yourself and your family going forward.
Thank you. I think we just need to, honestly, I say this and some of my friends, they're like, they laugh. But I'm like, I looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, what do you want?
Yeah.
And I also had great support system. Like my husband was always like, it's not about me.
Yeah.
I'm happy if you're happy. Whatever brings you peace.
Yeah.
And I had great support system. So of course, as always, you know, the people you surround yourself, that's also like half of the you know, the support that you're going to have. But you also need to be there for yourself. Have your own back. Be there for yourself. Yes.
Yeah. Listening to your voice the loudest is like the best skill we could all hone for ourselves. But I can't think of many harder things. and to be a woman who's a caretaker for, you know, for your children, for your child who has cancer, for your husband who has a very public on the road life, like you have a lot on your plate. To still be able to sit with yourself and find what you need is really, really beautiful. And I hope people take that as a way forward or to move through hard things.
Yeah, thank you. It's taken a lot. It's not always being like that. And it's not always like that. Like there's days that it's not like that.
Yeah.
But I think you get to a point where you know yourself and you're like, okay, I know this. In this moment, it's a boundary and I need to take care of myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, you may not always feel when it's like, okay, but you definitely feel when it's not okay, right?
Yes. Can we talk a little bit about Mia's Miracles and the foundation and what you've got coming up that you're excited about and what some of the blessings that you get to do through the foundation are?
Well, first of all, I want to say, because I have a lot of times people tell me if they have had a loss in their lives and they're like, oh, it's so beautiful what you're doing. I should be doing the same thing. And I'm like, no. It's this, the foundation and giving back to people. This comes, I have it in myself even before Mia was even in my mind, right? I've always had, before I became a mother, I was always lacking that purpose and that mission. I went to law school just because I was like, okay, what else am I going to do? If I'm a lawyer, I can be anything. That's what I told myself. But I went through to law school in Colombia. And then, you know, I started traveling the world with Camilo. And I was so jealous of him because he had a purpose and goals. And he was like that. And I felt so empty in that sense. So when it's very crazy, because probably like a month or 2 months before Mia went to the hospital the first time, I was driving in my car and I had this moment with God where I was like, what is my mission? And I swear I felt like, I'll show you, or something like that. You know, I just felt so peace, like so much peace within me. And I was like, okay. Then I'll take you to the day when we went to the hospital. They were doing the MRI. The doctors came in through the, you know, in the bedroom. It was like 8 doctors. You know, 8 doctors are not coming to say everything's fine.
Right.
And their faces. And they came. And then these doctors said to us, we found a mass in her brain. And that moment, I thought about the 2 months ago moment about my mission and the peace. And I just said, why like this? You know, and I was like, okay, but why like this?
Right.
You know, why? But then I was like, I've always had like a very close connection spiritually with God, or however people want to call, you know, say that energy. I'm not the most religious person, but I have, you know, my faith is, it's not even faith, because to me, I don't even, you know, choose to believe. Like, I know, you know?
Yeah.
But in that moment, I knew about my mission. And I was like, okay. And then throughout the journey in the hospital, you know, we had such hard moments. And in those moments, I would just tell myself, this cannot be for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And also then we realized how lucky we were in, of course we had Mia going through what she was going, but all the other things, we were extremely blessed. We had financial freedom. We could ask, we had a great health insurance. We could ask for third, second, fifth opinions.
Mm-hmm.
We had the best emotional support from our families and our friends. So honestly, we were so blessed. And we lived in the hospital for 5 months. So we saw how most people they're not in that position. They have to worry about so many different factors. Yeah. And that's how Mia's Miracles was born. And that's like, okay, we said, okay, we're going to do anything we can to help these families. And we recognize the positions that we're in because of Camilo. We have a voice and the access to resources that we have. And so, we and I love it. It's my mission. It's my passion, And she gave me one of my biggest gifts. Mia gave me. It's a mission. It's a passion.
So beautiful. And it speaks to conversations that we have all the time, which is you don't need to start a nonprofit to have an impact or to even like honor a legacy for a child. And that, I think what I just learned from your story is short of a message from God, maybe don't. Right? Yeah. It's a lot of work. And you end up doing things that are not like that are about running a nonprofit and aren't necessarily in the mission, that if you don't feel the connection through all of the work, you don't want to feel a burden when you think about your child's legacy either.
And because it's not only a lot of work like logistically into like how to run. It's not a business because it's not for profit, but like an entity, like you have to run. It's serious stuff. Yeah. Accounting, administration, like all these things that you have to deal with. But it is also an emotional burden too, Yeah. And there was a point where my husband told me, Maria, we don't have to do this. If this is going to be hard for you, like we don't have to do this.
Right.
And I said, no, because I know that's my mission. Right. Yeah. But it is an emotional burden and it is hard and it takes a lot of work. It is beautiful, but there's so many ways to give. Like there's so many different ways to give that we on our daily basis start by giving to yourself and then give to your spouse, to your children, and then it gets, it's an impact and it gets growing. But yeah, it's definitely because you guys know it because you work in the field. But most people think it's like, oh, it's so beautiful. I'm going to do an event and donate the money. Yeah. And it's like, oh my gosh, all that goes behind.
You see that social media filtered version of philanthropy too.
Yeah. I think my phrase is there's a lot of fake glamour in this life because if people see our gala, they see us like
or a check presentation.
Right? We're our glam and we are smiling and all those are real. And also they didn't see that we dragged all the boxes in for the gala and they didn't see us leave at 1 a.m. in the U-Haul. I think it's both. And I cut you off.
Oh, no. I think that perfectly illustrates what we're talking about too. And I was just wondering, for people who have heard your story or they have their own story and they're looking for a way to give back, but they just don't feel that same kind of pull. But maybe now they've heard your story and they're like, I might want to give to Mia's Miracles. How can people partner with your organization, find information? Do you have events coming up? What would you like to share with the audience? How they can connect with you?
We have a few events every year. So coming up, we have our golf pro-am in Jupiter at Bears Club on November 24th. Then for next year, we have our first event. It's like a mini golf kind of event, but we have all the information on our website. We are one important thing is because we're Colombian. So Mia's Miracles, it's both in Colombia and the US. And we have programs in both countries. And, but yeah, all the information is on our website. People can either donate directly on our website or, the email info@mias-miracles.org. Instagram, we're on Instagram. We share everything on our Instagram. I feel like nowadays is the way for people to find out about everything. Our newsletter, they can sign up on our newsletter. We always have volunteer opportunities. But honestly, and people don't, this is one very important message that I want people to know, because so many times people think like, oh, I don't have enough to give, like, right? Like you like giving, you should give so much. No, like never underestimate the power of $1. I always say this, because one donation might not be huge, but then together we can do so much. So, and it just starts with a smile, honestly. It just starts with like giving is the easiest thing. And what you will find, when you work in this, I always say the biggest gift, it's for us. We receive it because nothing feels as good as giving does.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think being part of community, being part of collective impact is all I want to feel and all I want to be able to give to other people to feel. I'm so grateful you spent time with us today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think there's so much that everyone can take from this conversation. So again, if you want to be part of Mia's legacy and be part of her miracle, you can go to Mia's Miracles, and that's mias-miracles.org, and learn all about Maria's foundation and what they're doing in Mia's name. The reason we exist is for kids like Mia, and we invest in innovative treatment to make treatment easier on kids like her. So if you want to learn about the research we're doing, you can also head to cannonballkidscancer.org and learn more about how you can make an impact.
That's right. And we want to thank everyone for listening to this episode of Game Over Cancer. And just remind you that if you leave a review, if you share this all goes into all of the efforts that help us educate for change and do the things that we need to do to make sure that resources are getting to kids like Mia.
Absolutely. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, guys. And thank you for what you do.
Oh my gosh.
Truly.
It is, like you said, it's our gift.
Yep.
Yeah.
So until next time, I'm Dana Nichols.
I'm Val Solomon.
And we'll see Casey.
See you later. Join us as we transform fear into courage and turn adversity into opportunities for change.
If you want to be involved in the conversations that create change in the world of pediatric cancer, take a moment, share, like, and subscribe.